currently loading. Holy shit. See our faces. I see my mouse cursor.
There it is.
What
Yes.
the fuck? It's ATA, baby. It's ATA, baby.
This is it. It's a painful process. It really is.
Tis. Hey, we're trying our best to bring our faces to the YouTubes. Technically here. Both technically here. We'll figure it out. More seamless shit. But thanks for just being with us for the ride, you know? You're just here with us.
Thanks for watching us make fools of ourselves and, you know, still sticking with us. We love you.
Indeed.
So, let's just start this like we normally would.
Well, welcome.
So first, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for bearing through it. First time on video. This was the launch, as you can see. A little bit of technical glitches to work out.
No, first try. This is the first try. We got it.
First take. Yeah, you're right.
We didn't do this 3 times already.
So welcome to After the Act, the podcast where we talk about movies and shows that we really like. We are your hosts. I am Alex, a.k.a. the man with many names, and...
Grandissimo. Magnifico.
There we go.
And we'll be running down our top 5, in no specific order, quarantine movies of 2020. The movies that kept us sane in an insane year.
It's true. Criteria were different, but hey, we're going to share our thoughts with you.
Yeah. So, we'll just get into it. If you guys are in there for the first one, you already know the preview of our first movies we're going to talk about. Most of you weren't here already, so doesn't matter. One of my options for my 5 movies I selected for the quarantine movies that kept me sane in 2020 is Palm Springs. Palm Springs, starring Andy Samberg and the mother in How I Met Your Mother. I should really look up her name at some point. But it's a comedy time loop movie. So it utilizes those time loop movie plot devices. It's in a comedy genre. And it does it in a very smart way. And they have their own little time loop lore and mechanics and physics that they work out. It definitely has this whole theme of self-reflection, as a lot of these time loop movies are inherently, that's their inherent purpose at least. And it ran parallel pretty well with real life. We were stuck in the same place over and over. It felt like a living time loop. And we were probably all stuck with the task of self-reflecting. So that's what this movie really honed in on. And I love the way it wraps up its time loop plot. I like how the characters they introduce develop despite being in a infinite loop of time. And they do a lot of smart things. It's on Hulu currently. Definitely recommend Palm Springs.
I like it. I will say this. I'm pretty sure we've all felt like we've been on that hamster wheel this year. It's been one hell of a ride, and most of the time not in a good way. But I actually haven't seen that film, and I actually really want to check it out now because I know it had Andy Samberg in it, but I've never gotten a chance to actually watch it the whole way through. And I love time warp movies. Some of my favorites, Avengers Endgame, they deal with time travel, Groundhog's Day, and also Happy Death Day. So those are some of my favorites. So anything dealing with that subject matter, I can always kind of hop on.
Sure.
Obviously, time travel, etc., is always kind of tricky to do because there's just so many inherent plot holes with it. But yeah, well, thanks for that, man. I'm going to be checking out that one myself.
For sure. Now,
so for my first one, this one was a little bit of a deviation from the subject matter yours deals with, but nonetheless, I absolutely love the movie Creed. I'm sure you guys saw this or heard about my review on the little demo we just did. But to keep it short, Creed is just one of those feel-good movies. The Rocky franchise in general is one of those feel-good movies where you can kind of tackle anything. And even though it may be tough at first with a little bit of determination and perseverance, you're able to overcome them, which was something I was able to apply to my entire life during 2020. Also just helped me get through each day little by little. Never really found the time to work out as hard as I wanted before that. And like many people during COVID, just having to stay in my house and kind of reflect on stuff. gave me time to figure out what's important in my life and to stay, physically active. So this movie just really kind of pushed me and motivated me to keep doing stuff, not even just working out, but above and beyond that. It's probably my third time watching it during quarantine. So if you haven't seen it, Ryan Coogler, an incredible director, and you just can't get over the fact that Michael B. Jordan is just some beautiful eye candy. So go ahead and check it out.
Big facts. Yeah, great movie. It plays in the Rocky world really well. I want a Creed 3. I hope they get to that, but anything in Michael B. Jordan at this point, I'm already in love with it.
You're going to direct number 4, so don't worry about it.
That's true. I'm going to direct Black Panther 4 and Creed 4. That's my plan. They don't know that yet, but they will. They will. Creed, great choice for a quarantine 2020 movie. All right, changing up the genre on my end as well is a movie that I think came out, actually not in 2020. I think this one came out in maybe 2019. I'll have to double check that. But a movie that I found that was really fun, summer, just background kind of B-movie thriller, Crawl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see it before 2020, but I finally watched it, and it's fun. It's a fun movie. It kind of, it has, it's a better written film than something like Deep Blue Sea or, The Meg. But
hey, don't shit on Deep Blue Sea. Love that fucking movie.
Hey, if this is like all-time favorite, just keep me sane movies, I think Deep Blue Sea. That's it'd be a runner. But Crawl it's this nice kind of isolated. Hey, there's a hurricane. The basement is flooded. Me and my dad are stuck in here with alligators. Like that is the movie. They're in the basement with alligators.
Florida.
It's it's what I understand is a good representation of Florida, just being surrounded by alligators. And that's the entire movie. They just try to get out of that situation. Different things happen. The alligators ramp up the already shitty situation they're in, already being in a hurricane surrounded by death. But it's fun. It's a fun B flick movie. You just want some popcorn flick kind of movies, which I loved. Like, that's what summer usually is for movies. It's popcorn flicks. Just enjoy some thrillers, some big blockbusters. This isn't a big blockbuster, but it's definitely good. This background. Okay, that person dies in a fucked up way. That person survives. Or did they? I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun background movie. I think I rented it on Amazon. But check it out. Crawl. If you like people trying to survive deadly animals in a Florida region, Crawl is for you. And it was for me in 2020.
Honestly, I was not expecting that at all. And wow. Okay. So we got alligators, and then we have time travel. So your list is pretty diverse. I gotta keep up here. So my next movie on my list was actually Resident Evil, and I know all in all, this franchise is not very good. But this first film is my favorite in this franchise, and I think I've just watched this on repeat for, I want to say, like 3 or 4 times as well during COVID. And it's because of the subject matter. Like, I love the video games, and it deals with a viral outbreak. And I'm pretty sure when people first got into the pandemic, they were expecting something like Resident Evil. But instead they got, just themselves in their pajamas lying around the house all day. But this movie is a ride and a half. The first one is pretty decent in my opinion. You got Mila Jovovich, Michelle Rodriguez, just a bunch of on-screen badass women just taking out zombies and, horrific creatures and zombies everywhere. It's just exciting. So if you haven't seen it, of course, watch it. Only this one I recommend. But yeah, very exciting, very fun ride. And it was very entertaining during the pandemic because, I was living one. So yeah, that was my number 2.
That's very fair. I know you love that video games as well, so I can see how the movies resonate. I haven't seen Resident Evil, like the first one, maybe 15 years or something like that. It's been a long time. So
it's time, man.
I'll revisit. I'll pay to revisit. All right, got some zombies in there now. I like it. So another movie that kept me partially sane in 2020, Borat 2. Borat 2.
Wow. That's a newer release. I respect it.
It is. It is. And I mean, the timing of the movie alone was definitely calculated.
Yeah.
By Sasha. It came out, a few weeks before the 2020 election, which was already incredibly stressful in an already stressful year. And this movie somehow, like, I'm not ready for movies about 2020. Like, I'm not ready for that yet. Like, I know there's like a Death of 2020 movie on Netflix. I haven't finished that yet. It seemed funny, but I can't handle immediate self-reflection while we're still kind of in that mentality. I'd rather tragedy have some time before I get that comedy equation down. But Borat 2 somehow broke that mold and was able to encapsulate the bullshit that we've been living in a very, very like sharp comedic way. I think the first movie was like America in general. This is your self-reflection, and these are just ridiculous characters trying to parody a lot of stereotypes that are awful. And this time he really honed in on a lot of the worst conservative viewpoints out there, pretty much because, Trump had a chance of being reelected. And, thank Georgia he wasn't. But this movie is fucking hilarious. It has I'm not sure what I like more, Borat 1 or 2, but the fucking bits in Borat 2 are just wild. Like, I don't even want to say what they were, but if you've seen the first one, you can kind of get an idea. And they even play with the lore of Borat well, because the meta is they understand that the general population knows Sasha's gimmicks. So Borat himself, I'll spoil this, sometimes had to go in disguise as other people in order to pass off that he's deep in the character well in this movie. But it's funny, it's satirical in all the best ways. Definitely helped alleviate some of that election stress. So even now, I'd recommend go checking out Borat 2 on Amazon Prime.
In the words of Robert Downey Jr., he was a dude playing a dude pretending to be another dude.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's exactly that.
I will say this, is that after watching that, I could just imagine you saying that to the COVID virus if it were, sentient. Like, no, you will never get this. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Although, then it's like, then he gets it. Then he gets it. Happen any day.
Oh. Anyways, all right, that was good, man. I actually haven't seen the second one yet, but God. That first one's a classic, and yeah, I need a good laugh every now and then, which kind of brings me to my next one. Boom. So it was tough picking between these two. I've seen them equally as much during the pandemic. I honestly believe they're the same movie, just for different generations. So for Superbad, it'd be for us in our age group of like late 20s, early or mid to like late 20s. But Booksmart, I feel, is the Gen Z or the Zoomers version of Superbad. And not to put it in a box, because I thought it was equally funny. I thought I was able to relate to the characters in both movies just as much. But this was just one of those feel-good movies. Again, I couldn't really go out. I couldn't hang out with my friends. So just watching a film about two young ladies and two young men coming of age, just in the pursuit of having a good time and just having these wonderful adventures with one another, just made me feel really, really reminiscent of some stuff pre-COVID. And then on top of that, just, I was able to travel on that hilarious journey with each of these characters. And it really just allowed me to forget and distract myself from all the stuff going on around us at the time. So very clever movies, both of them. I'd say Superbad's slightly more, I guess, raunchier, but they're both a riot, both wonderfully done movies. So if you have the spare time, check them out. Enough said.
Yeah, I allow this double feature pick because I adore both of those movies so much. You're right. When I needed a laugh, it was usually out of Superbad, Booksmart, or This Is the End. I just had those on rotation.
Exactly.
Pretty much throughout the year. So that's a great choice. Great choice. Love Booksmart. Love Superbad. I'm probably watch that this weekend now. At one of those movies are going to be watched again.
This Is the End almost made it on this list too, which is funny.
That's fair.
It's one of those end of the world films again.
Yeah, already an honorable mention. Give me something Rogan-esque, and I'm probably happy with it. But good choice. Good choice.
Yeah.
Speaking of the end of the world, my next movie is Justice League Doom Apocalypse War.
Oh shit, that's a great animated movie.
Yeah. So
Take
this is out
take
of
it away.
the DC animated universe, which is at this point almost as extensive as the MCU is. And it's excellent. And honestly rivals the quality of the MCU. Now, the DC live movies are a different story, but the animated movies are golden. You have Batman Under the Red Hood, you have Flashpoint Paradox. You have a lot of great animated movies. And this was their Avengers Endgame culmination of I don't know, it's like 15 plus movies they've had in their circuit. And it's excellent. It definitely feels like they saw Endgame and they felt that influence, but in the best way. You have major characters dying immediately. You have a situation where the world is actually ending. Like there is an end date to how long the planet will live. People are already living shit lives because they've been living in apocalypse for years. And what they culminate to the end of the movie is great. It sets up the potential next slate of movies in an interesting way. A lot of feels. It touched me in a lot of good places. Mostly just
Show them where.
just above, actually right below my areola for this one. It was like a little below it to the right of my left areola, specifically. But it felt really good there. It features a lot of kind of like side characters in the DC universe that aren't like the main three, like the Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman trio. Like Constantine plays a huge role in this movie.
I was going to say that. I
Constantine
appreciate
is
the
huge in
shit out of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of the Justice League dark characters. So it deals with magic and science and this end world and time paradoxes. It's great. So if you're into the DC animated movies at all, or you're interested in them, honestly start from the beginning. Just find all of them. I think they're on HBO Max right now. It's a great substitute for, all right, MCU. Maybe you already did a binge of that. Go to the DC animated universe. You'll find probably the same level of quality. Justice League Doom Apocalypse War. Check it out.
Exactly. And stop with the stigma with animated movies. I mean, at this point, I think we can all agree between Pixar and listen, I love the MCU, but when it comes to animated films, DC is by far the best, I think.
Yep.
I know they get a bad rep for live action movies, and rightly so, but when it comes to animated stuff, definitely go see that shit. I saw that film and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Just the way they weave everything into one final story, one final like Thanos level threat is incredible. So yeah, I completely agree with that recommendation. Good pick, man. Good pick. And of course, John Constantine. Can't go wrong.
For sure.
If you did like that, I would recommend you watch Doom Patrol on HBO Max. Yeah.
Check that out.
Really, really good live action depiction of some of the more forgettable heroes of the DC universe. But speaking of heroes, my next film and time travel, so it's appropriate. Wait, gonna do my pause.
Oh, it's beautiful. He's beautiful. Look at him.
And that's a thumbnail. Yeah, what's not to say? We've reviewed this film. This was the first movie we ever reviewed here on ATA. The culmination, like you said, of what, 12, 13 movies of the MCU. Just an incredible ride. It was a great way to escape all of this stuff during the pandemic. And I think one of the things that really resonated for me on this film, too, was just the way the heroes overcame their tragedy, right? Which is something I think, can all relate to with, vaccines coming out and people trying to get back to a semblance of a normal life. I mean, this movie deals exactly with that. Obviously in a hyperbolic situation, but you have these superheroes who are grieving. They've lost people. They're down in the dumps, and then they find a way to snatch hope again, much like we have, and they just find a way to pull off the dub at the end, despite some losses. So really feel good movie, kind of hits close to home as well. Obviously, we can't say anything more in terms of praise for this film. So if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, what are you doing? You have the time, right? During COVID, watch these films. It's just a beautiful universe. Go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing else really to be added. that you couldn't find in our first ever podcast of ATA. But yeah, the MCU, that's probably been the biggest cinema loss of 2020 is just not getting those MCU films. But
Yep.
hey, WandaVision, it's out, so it's continuing the legacy. So check out all the MCU stuff, and Endgame, beautiful, beautiful. All right, I think this is my final movie in my 5 movies that kept me sane in 2020 during quarantines, and I love this one. I watched this one. I think I smoked the last of my weed to this movie, and it fucked me up in a great way. So this one's on Netflix, and this one is David Attenborough, A Life on Our Planet. So it's
I haven't seen this one, to be honest.
highly recommend. David Attenborough, obviously, he seems like the king of those nature documentaries. He spent his entire life researching animals, planets, climates, just our planet, and he has a lot of great ones. I think Our Planet is the name of one of the series, but this one, it's called A Life on Our Planet, but it does dive into his life on the planet. It documents his journey being a documenter of nature. And it's beautiful to see him. Like I didn't know this much about David Attenborough before seeing this documentary, but when he was a young lad, I think he might be in his 80s right now, but his 20s, 30s, 40s, he was an explorer. He's akin to our favorite crocodile monitor human.
Crocodile Dundee, or not Crocodile Dundee? Steve Irwin.
Yeah, Steve Irwin. I was blanking on the name. But he's kind of in that same breath of he's been doing this for a long time, and not only does it document his own love for our planet, but it does what his documentaries usually do. It reflects where we were, for example, our carbon footprint 100 years ago versus now, and it devastates you with facts that we know are around us, and we're aware of some of the things, but it reflects a really, really tough mirror to the human species of what the fuck we did to this planet, what it's doing to the actual animals, what it's doing to the actual ozone layers. And not only just like, hey, we're pretty fucked right now because of what we chose to do, but we can still do things. Like there are really, really obvious things that we can implement, not only in our day-to-day lives, but as a species as a whole, that'll help the planet out. And I hope these lovable animals that we'll see in our Instagram feed not die out in the next 100 years. And it's shot beautifully. The cinematography of his documentaries are always like top of the line. Like they are using the top lenses, these top shots, and the top DPs handling these scenes they're showing. So beautiful, informative, devastating, but hopeful. David Attenborough's A Life on Our Planet is on Netflix now. Definitely check it out.
I like it. And you actually see a lot of the innovative technology always being used for those kind of big nature projects. I know, what was the one, Deep Blue Planet or Blue Planet for the ocean documentary?
Yeah.
Those used amazing technology at the time. I think that was one of the first documentaries, again, fact check me on this, that utilized 4K camera technology, and this was years ago. So those are typically way ahead of the game, which just kind of makes you appreciate it that much more, especially from a filmic standpoint. So yeah, that's actually really cool. I'll check that out. You know, that kind of reminds me of the movie, I think it was called The Happening by M. Night Shyamalan, where people just start like killing themselves. I think that was the name of it.
I haven't seen that one, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I won't spoil it, but it's very closely related to nature and the dynamic that humans share with nature. It kind of reminded me of that, and I could see that being really cool for COVID, but at the same time being kind of demoralizing. Like, man, we fucking suck. We deserve this. Stay our asses inside. But nonetheless, I'll definitely check that out. So, and interesting. So you're telling me in that particular project, the documenter became the documentee?
He did in a way, yeah.
So is a documentary within a documentary? That's crazy.
It's a doc in a doc.
Doc squared.
Doc squared.
All right. So this last movie for me, it's gonna be a little controversial, but I will explain it. So the last one for me is American Beauty. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of controversy with Kevin Spacey, rightly so. he did some monstrous things. And to me, it's always difficult separating the artist from the artist's work because you just hear all these terrible stories of things that happened on set. However, this has always been one of my favorite films, and I think it's not even just because of the acting. I think it's just the overall message of the film that I really enjoy. It's an absolutely beautiful movie. I think it won at least nominated for Best Picture, if not won it, I think in 1998, 1999. But this is just a beautiful story about a man who wakes up one day and realizes that he absolutely doesn't care about his everyday normal life. He realizes that everything he's done and everything he has been thinking of doing has been very hollow. And so he's going to start living his life that day. He's not going to postpone things anymore. He's going to finally be the person he's always wanted to be. And I think for me, during the pandemic, it just kind of reminded me of the important things in life, because that's one of the subjects that this movie covers, is what is inherently beautiful about the human condition and about life in general. And it does a great job of like separating artificial desires and wants from maybe the more important things, such as feeling self-fulfilled or accomplished, which are things that everybody wanted to at least reflect on during these pandemic times. So this movie reminded me of that. It is a wonderful journey. Yes, Kevin Spacey is in it, but nonetheless, I still think it's a beautiful movie with a beautiful message. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm sure it will resonate with you, hopefully.
Sure. There's a lot of movies like that during that time, too. You had like American Beauty, The Matrix, Office Space, a lot of just like, hey, working class person, really tired of the working class life. It's not working for them. And that's kind of a timeless message. So, yeah, could definitely see how that message resonates during 2020, where we're kind of sick of the norm because it's shitty for everyone.
Right.
But very fair. Very fair. And yeah, that'll do it for our 5 respective movies that kept us sane, partially, in 2020. And also the debut of ATA on YouTube, on Twitch, doing live stuff. Took us like 5 different tries to see both of our faces. So now we have a base.
It was worth it, right?
Now we can see both of our faces. But we'll improve it from here. This is essentially like season 3 of ATA. That's what it feels like, at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look out for. We're going to try to do these weekly. So ATA weekly, the Magic Conch weekly, along with doing weekly streams of us playing a variety of different kind of games. So look out. You're going to see a lot of these faces for a very long time. I'm sorry about that, but there's nothing else we can do. We need to be out here. We need to
be all up in your grill. But also keep in mind that just because we're doing just because we're doing these video podcasts doesn't mean you won't be able to catch us on all your favorite platforms. The episodes will still be ripped to audio, so we'll be on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. If there is a name for it, we're probably on it. If not, just let us know in the comment section below. For any other content, you can view us on malumpictures.com. Check out our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Check us out. Keep that bell icon lit so you can always get the up-to-date posts that we make. We promise we'll be more consistent. And we love you. Thank you so much for joining us for our first ever video podcast episode. It won't be the last, and it'll only get better. But until then, stay classy. Peace.
Join us in 2021 for great success. Great success.